and curator of the auditorium in Lapeer.
What's up, everyone?
How are you today, Kristen?
I'm biscuity, I guess.
You always are.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
All right. Before, what's that?
I said, how are you?
Oh, I'm fine. Before we get to our guest, I should mention, obviously, this is a little bit different look. We are not in the studio due to the COVID rules. Hopefully, we will be back in the studio soon, sometime in the beginning of next year. So before we get to our first guest, we are going to get to the segment, What You Got, and we still don't have music for it, but I think who went first? There you go. Who went first last time? Who went first last time?
I don't remember. You can go.
You know what? I'll just go and get it out of the way.
Okay.
Because, okay, well, I should point out that our guest this week was supposed to be on in October. That was going to be our Halloween theme. So just kind of consider this the Nightmare Before Christmas edition. And one of, well, it's kind of up for debate, but I consider it a Christmas movie. This is actually Gizmo from, I believe, 1982. I'm not sure who made this. My eyes are getting bad. I can't read it. But this was something that I had as a kid, and I passed it on to my daughter, and I just came across it the other day, so I took it back.
Awesome.
Because she's got enough toys.
Right.
So anyway, that is one thing. I don't remember if I got that as a gift or not. But anyway, Gizmo from 1982. And then just one other thing that I want to show, because it'll go along with our theme. I'm not a huge card collector. I did have some when I was a kid, but I just recently picked up this pack of Return of the Jedi cards from, would have been 1983, I'm guessing. That's when the movie was out. But I'll just go through these real quick. You got a bunch of those guys. Then you got, wait a minute, Leia as Bow. I think that's a sticker.
Nice.
Luke, who, spoiler alert, if you haven't, well, I'll just say this. Watch The Mandalorian, the last episode of The Mandalorian. Then you got the Emperor shooting the lightning out of his fingers. I know you have no idea what I'm talking about, Kristen, but then you got the Return of the Jedi.
That's what matters.
You got Return of the Jedi poster. Logray, the Ewok, Medicine Man.
Nice.
Scout Trooper, and a speeder bike. Looks like a ATST shooting up the bunker.
Nice.
Luke, Leia, and Han on Endor.
Okay.
Leia right after Han came out of the carbonite. And then checklist, with the Ewok on it. And also they threw in, the place that I got this from, they also threw in a ET card.
Oh,
so there's
Elliot
and ET.
Nice.
And it did have gum, but I didn't.
Oh,
so there is my. No. I thought about it. I did think about it, but I thought that probably was not the best idea, since it was probably from 1983.
Right.
But anyway, that's what I got. Kristen, what you got?
Well, it's nice because since I'm in my home, I can whip out bigger things. So this is Buddy. He died in the 40s. This is a death cast. He died in the 40s. He was 9 years old. His grandpa was a semi-famous sculptor. So when Buddy died, he asked the funeral home if he could do the whole process to make a death mask. And they had 3 of these made. And the funniest part is they sold 2 of them, and the other one ended up going to another oddity shop owner in Detroit. So I can't even remember. I think it was like South Carolina or something that his family and he is from. And it ended up in Michigan, 2 oddity shop owners. Like, what are the freaking odds of that?
Yeah.
Just saying. Creepy.
Yeah,
yeah,
it is.
That's funny.
So how long have you had that?
Maybe like 3 years now.
Okay. And you keep that at home. That's not something that you've had in your shop?
No. This is personal collection stuff right here.
Okay.
He's incredible. But
Yeah,
anyway, that's what I got.
Awesome. Now does that weigh a lot? It looks like it's kind of
It's plaster. Yeah.
All right, cool.
Little on the heavy side.
Oh, okay. All right, cool. So that was what we got. And so without further ado, let's introduce our special guest this week. And it is Jack Magnus from jacksattic.com, who does a lot of different things, actually. Is a graphic artist. He has his own T-shirts on his website. A lot of horror-related stuff, but not necessarily. A lot of pro wrestling stuff. A lot of video game type stuff as well. Also, I'll let him talk about it a little bit more. Jack, welcome to Collection Reflection. How are you?
I am great. Thanks, Tim. Kristen, how are you?
Good. How are you?
I am doing great. Thanks for having me. This is actually a pretty cool honor, and I really appreciate it. So thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
We appreciate you coming on. I know that it was a little bit, coming because we had originally planned for Halloween, but stuff happened. So, like I said, this will just be the Nightmare Before Christmas edition instead.
Yeah, I can roll with that.
All right. My first question that I want to ask you is, not that everything you do is pro related, but you do a lot of like custom type toys, knockoff type things. So, what were some of your favorite toys as a kid?
When I was a kid, He-Man was huge. I remember going to birthday parties, and that was the toys that I would always give to the kids that I would go to birthday parties for, and those are the ones that I would always want as well. And I was always drawn to the bad guys because they're always so much more interesting than the heroes. Usually the heroes are very human-based characters, and the villains were always some sort of a monster of some kind, and that kind of just spoke to me. So He-Man was huge, Voltron, Transformers, G.I. Joe. I mean, any of that stuff that was like from the early 80s through the like late 80s was my sweet spot of toys.
Okay, yeah, I remember buying my very first He-Man toy, and I had seen him in the Christmas catalog, but it was Beastman, and because I thought he was like the coolest one at the time for the first series. But yeah, it's interesting that you mentioned all those properties, because I was just down the toy aisle actually earlier today at Walmart, and all that same stuff is still on the shelves. You can still find new He-Man stuff, new Transformers stuff, new Voltron stuff, and new G.I. Joe stuff.
Yeah, what's old is new again, and what I like is they're reproducing them in the same format that they were originally made. A lot of times, like in the 90s and 2000s, they would have like this reflux of new G.I. Joes or new Transformers, but they would be like a modernized version, a bastardized version, if you will. And these ones that they have out now are like on retro packaging. They look like the same exact molds, the same colors. I mean, it's awesome.
Yeah, I agree with you. I have not bought any of the new He-Man stuff, but I bought some of the other stuff. I bought a few of the new 6-inch G.I. Joe figures so far, even though they're not exactly like the old ones, but they're pretty cool.
I'm surprised there's new He-Man stuff. Like, don't they normally, like, is He-Man back? Is the show back or something? Like, don't
That-
they normally make toys based off like current movies or shows or whatnot? You know what I'm saying?
Jack might know better than me. As far as I know, there is none of that right now.
No, yeah, and usually that's what happens. Yeah, Chris, and whenever there's some sort of revival of a cartoon or a TV show, then that's when they put out the merchandise. But with He-Man, there was nothing like that. And the same thing with G.I. Joe, and even the Ghostbusters retro toys that they're putting out. I don't know if there's. I think it's just the market right now is just you have these people who, when those toys were popular in the 80s, are now maybe buying them for their own children or like, hey, I remember having this, and now with the collectible market, I mean, I can't go out and buy a glow-in-the-dark Egon Spengler for less than $700, but I can go to Walmart and pick one up for $20.
Right.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And as far as that goes, I haven't really heard. I think there was some rumblings at one point recently about them maybe making a new He-Man live action film, which if any film needs a remake, I think that is it.
Yeah, that first one with Dolph Lundgren, they tried, but yeah, I mean, looking back on it now, it's pretty rough. But yeah, I think after what Marvel has done with the translation from comics to film, I don't think there's any property out there now that can't be made into a successful film franchise.
Yeah, oh yeah, I definitely agree with that. Now, have you always remained a toy collector, but at some point did you start getting back into it as an adult?
Yeah, actually, I was all the way up until I moved out of state for college, and I kind of had to pare a lot of stuff down. And where I was living out of state, there just wasn't a market for it. I got really into comic books at that point and video games, but I kind of fell off the toy bandwagon. But once I finished up with college and came back to Michigan, got my own place, I was able to really start focusing on toy collecting again, and still continued on with comics to a certain extent. But just the way comics are nowadays, you have to buy 15 different issues to follow one storyline, and they're constantly retconning things. And so I don't really follow superhero comics so much anymore. I like the more horror based or like real life type comics, and still follow and collect video games quite a bit.
Okay. What's your favorite current comic?
Oh geez, I'm not even, honestly, I would have to probably say Something's Killing the Children. It's an independent comic. It's a kind of a supernatural twinged like a teen type of horror comic.
Sounds interesting.
Okay.
Sounds like my kind of comic.
Well, and that's the thing. There's a lot of stuff out there that flies beneath the radar that just has really, really good stories, and that's kind of what I look for. Is I'm not so much buying comics anymore to collect like I did when I was younger. It's like, oh, just put this in a bag and a board, put it on a shelf, and never touch it. It's like I want interesting storylines that kind of take me someplace.
That makes sense.
Yeah, I kind of feel the same way. I mean, I actually went to the comic book store probably the first time in about 6 months recently, but I mean, I have a box that he pulls stuff with, and there was really nothing in the box because all the comics that I was reading are kind of done at this point. So, I honestly, like, I haven't even read anything. Like, if I get them, I'll go and pick them up, and then I sock them away. I don't even really read them anymore. But I had gotten to that point too, where I was just looking more for something to read than like the normal like superhero comic stuff. I do have to say that I did kind of jump on the Walking Dead wagon like quite a bit before. I mean, I was reading the comics quite a ways before they decided to make it into a TV show. And then, I watched the first couple seasons of the TV show, and then I kind of kind of drifted away from that. But I think I did collect like almost all of those.
Yeah, if you like the Walking Dead comics, you need to check out Marvel Zombies, the first run of Marvel Zombies, because it was written by Robert Kirkman. Yes,
I have quite a few of those, and I also had the run of the Robert Kirkman Ant-Man, which I loved too. I don't know if you would have read that, but that was an interesting take on Ant-Man, and it was definitely different than what Marvel was doing at the time. But yeah, I was a big Kirkman fan, and then even going back before that, I just picked up Preacher #1 back when it was on the shelf way back in the 90s, and continued on with that one for a while. That was at the time, especially, that was a very different story, and but I watched like the first 2 episodes of the series and I was just out. I don't know why. I couldn't hang with it. But
yeah, there's certain shows or certain comics that are really hard to adapt, especially stuff that deals with any type of religious undertones or overt violence. And I'm really surprised that Walking Dead did as well as it did, the TV show.
Yeah, I remember when they first started talking about that, I was like, this can't last. But
yeah,
I thought they did a decent job of it. I mean, and they were able to get away with more than I thought.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm a fan. I'm a Walking Dead fan. Not the comics, but the show.
Yeah, no, the show is great in and of itself.
So
the show
good.
is great, but if you've read the comics, you're like, oh, this is different, and it was better in the comic. There are some things that are definitely better in the show. I mean, certain characters are just that aren't in the comics, like Daryl. Daryl's not in the comics, and he's a great character.
Right. Exactly. So Kristen, did you stay with Walking Dead the whole time?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
All right.
It's on Netflix, and I actually, because I ran out of stuff to watch on Netflix, so I went ahead and started the Walking Dead all over again, because it came out. I mean, that was probably in like 2011 or 13. I feel like when it came out, So now I'm rewatching all these seasons, and it's new to me again. Oh, I forgot about that character, or So it's yeah. I'm about
Who's your favorite character on The Walking Dead, Kristen?
Listen, I always say, if a zombie apocalypse happens, like I'm a picker, so I'm out picking all the time. I've been looking for me a badass sword for the long, like I will be Michonne, okay?
Nice.
All right.
So probably, I love Daryl, I love Michonne, I think Carol's a badass. They're all so good.
Yeah, a lot of the characters on there are written really well, especially Carol. I mean, to watch her arc from season 1 to where she's at now is amazing.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah. Like I probably 4 or 5 seasons, and I mean, so I was there, but the only reason that I didn't is because I got rid of cable. I probably would have stayed with it too. It was right. No, I canceled Netflix too.
That's a humdinger.
Yeah, I will re-up it when some of my other shows come back on. But all right, let's get back on track a little bit.
Okay.
So like I said, a lot of these questions were from back in October when we originally had this plan. So my next question for Jack is: were you a big Halloween fan when you were younger?
Yeah, absolutely. Halloween was that one time a year where I felt like this is right. And not only, maybe just the fall season in general has that feeling about it, where it doesn't feel like that any other time of the year, where there's this weird feeling in the air, and it's crisp and it's cool, and it's just got that smell that it doesn't smell like any other time of the year. And Halloween always had that feeling about there was like something amazingly charming about it, but also like there's underlying danger too, which was really attractive to me, where it was just this feeling of anything could happen, and it might not be something good. And I really, for some reason, was always drawn to that. I think that in this day and age, well, maybe not so much in 2020, but in general, we don't live with enough fear. As human beings, we've really tried to insulate ourselves from all things that scare us or make us uncomfortable. And I always try to seek that out when I was younger. I just like that feeling. I think it's the same reason people like to go to amusement parks. It's a controlled fear.
Yeah. I was a bigger Halloween fan as an adult. I don't know why. I mean, I had nothing against it, but I had talked about this on a previous show. I think it was just because it wasn't a whole lot of focus put on it in my family. Like, and not that they were anti it or anything, but it would be like at the last minute, I'd be like, hey, it's Halloween tomorrow, Mom. And then she'd like make up some costume, and some of them weren't the best. So like I didn't really catch on to that until a little bit later. And it's just amazing. Here's one thing that Kristen's probably grown up with this, but and I'm not sure how old you are, but when I was a kid anyway, like the accessibility of the stuff and the affordability of the stuff nowadays is so much better than what they had when I was a kid. Like if you wanted a rubber mask, I mean, you can go to pretty much any place now and get a rubber mask off the rack that's decent quality. I mean, when we were kids, or when I was a kid, the rubber masks were really expensive, and you definitely did not have the access. I mean, there was no such thing as a Spirit Halloween. I know that's Kristen's daughter's favorite store, and my daughter likes it too. But do you find that, Jack, to be the case?
Absolutely. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm in that same boat as you folks. I'm 42, so when I was younger, as a young teen, trying to go and find decent Halloween costumes was a bit of a struggle. We actually had to drive about 30 miles to the nearest big city, and it was in Bay City, and there was this costume shop called Camille's Costumes, and that was like the only place where you could find really decent stuff. And I remember buying my first Michael Myers mask there and just being like, this is the Mecca. And they would have all kinds of costumes. And yeah, like you were saying, the accessibility of stuff now is ridiculous, especially with the internet. So yeah, when you're younger, you're kind of forced to take the hand that's dealt to you as far as Halloween costumes and accessories and such. It's whatever you can find in the 5 mile area where you can bike to. But as you get older, that world opens up to you more.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite costume that you had when you were a kid? Anything that sticks out?
Yeah, probably that first year that I wore the Michael Myers costume, because it was something that you grow up watching in the movies. And when you finally are able to kind of step into those shoes, there's a weird sense of power that comes along with it, which is really strange, where you start to feel like you notice that you start mimicking the mannerisms, and you don't talk as much, and you start to kind of, that character starts to take over a little bit, which is intriguing, but also I think maybe a little scary.
Yeah. So this year, I don't know if you've seen the Misfits masks that they sell now, the vacuum formed ones. I don't have it handy, but I really didn't have a plan to even dress up, but my daughter was wanting me to dress up, so I threw the mask on and pulled the hood over my head. People were scared. There were like adults that were like coming out of their houses, and like I was standing back, and they were like, oh, like just the way that mask looks. I think it's the way the eyes are.
Because you're a big dude, Tim.
That's probably got a little to do with it, but it's but those masks, people were like legitimately scared, and kids were walking by. I almost felt bad because kids were walking by like looking up at me like, oh, what's this guy doing?
That's what I'm saying. If you were just a kid wearing that mask, kids wouldn't be scared. But you're a big dude wearing that mask.
Yeah, maybe.
It's totally terrifying.
Yeah, and the Crimson Ghost, it does have a really odd and weird quality to it. It's not like a normal skull. It's got like this bigger kind of elongated mouth, and yeah, the eyes are really, really creepy. So yeah, it's a very striking image.
Yeah, Yes, it worked. It worked very well. Even my daughter was scared of me by the end.
Nice.
She was scared of the mask. She's still scared. We had a discussion on a previous show about what the worst Halloween candy of all time is. And I just want to get your opinion on that before I tell you what our consensus was.
Oh, that's easy. It's a two-way tie between circus peanuts and those black and orange wrapped. I don't even know what they are. I think they're called Mary Jane's, maybe. Yeah, butter. Yeah, something. Yeah, those things are awful. Yeah.
Yeah, they were like in the wax paper. Peanut butter kisses, I think is the official name, but yeah, they're disgusting. Yeah.
They're awful. And for some reason, I've never liked circus peanuts. I don't know if it's the flavor or the texture or both, but yeah, I hate those.
That's what we had. We were talking to Retro Go-Go, and that's what we all came up with too. It's been a long time since I've had them, but yeah, they are pretty disgusting. So that ended up being our number one as well.
Yeah. Even as a kid, when you're sorting through your candy Halloween night, those are the ones you'd push off to your younger brother and say, "Here, you can have these."
Oh yeah, definitely. Now, as far as your artistic abilities go, were you did you have those at an early age, or did those kind of come on later on?
Tim, can I interrupt you?
Yes.
I feel
Anytime.
like Jack needs to give us just an overall, I don't think consensus is the word, but an overall whatever of like what he does, what his website's about. You know what I'm saying?
Good idea. Yeah.
Okay,
let's do that, because the viewers
Yeah, you're right.
Thanks, Kristen. Jax-attic.com. So jaxattic.com. It's kind of like my online portfolio. There's pages on there that show my t-shirt work, my graphic design work, where I've done posters for independent movies, Blu-ray cases, DVD cases, VHS cases, of my own artwork. There's trading cards that I've made on there, bootleg action figures, designer toys. So a little bit of everything. It's kind of a mishmash of all the stuff that growing up that I wish I had at the time or wish someone would make. And eventually I just got to the point where it's like, I'll just make it myself. And if I'm the only one entertained by this, then so be it. But there's a kind of a niche audience for this kind of this Venn diagram of horror movies, wrestling, and video games that kind of all come together, where you have this very small subsection of a very particular nerd that's into all of that stuff. And so but well, I'm sorry, what was the question?
You pretty much answered it, like what your website is about and overall what you do.
Okay, yeah. But yeah, artistic. Yeah, as a kid, I was drawing a lot. I remember one of the earliest things my mom saved, and it's really weird. When I was a kid, I would always go with her when she would go shopping, and she would go off and do her shopping and leave me in the toy section or the comic book section, stuff that you would never do nowadays with your kids. But it's like, okay, he'll be fine. I'll be 45 minutes tooling around the store. He'll be fine with the toys and the comic books. And I would always read through the comic books, and I remember reading through a lot of Swamp Thing comics when I was really young, and I'm thinking it was probably around the time that Grant Morrison was writing it, and it was like really, really dark stuff. And I remember going home one day after that and drawing this really odd picture of like this weird zombie kind of like on his knees praying, and there's like a window behind him with lightning in the window, and it says possessed people. And it's like, I have no idea what it means or where it came from, but it was just kind of like this weird concoction of these horror images that I saw in the comics, and my mom kept it for some reason. And so even at a young age, I was really drawn to darker stuff, and I might not have been like the best like artist, but I was always trying to put stuff out. And then once I got to a certain age where I can fine tune things and kind of get at least some of what I had in my head out into the world, that's when things really started to take off, where I was able to do like Photoshop and start making resin molds of action figures and stuff, where it was not so much co-opting someone else's design, but actually putting my own designs out there.
Okay. So when did you, because Jack's Attic's been around since 2009, is that correct?
Yeah. And it actually, the whole Jack's Attic thing started because the name came from a story that was going to be a part of one of the items that I was going to sell. Like, I originally wanted to make like spirit boards, like homemade Ouija boards. And they would be hand carved out of wood and then screen printed. But I realized that I'm god awful at screen printing, and it's very messy and it's not very forgiving. So, but the story behind it was that the original spirit board that I found was in my Uncle Jack's attic, and he had been in the war, and he had saved some gypsy in Europe, and they had given him this spirit board as a means of thanks. And so I found it in his attic after he passed away, and now I was going to kind of reproduce these boards and sell them. And then once that didn't work out, I kept the name, adopted the name Jack, and then started making my own stuff. And it started off with like jewelry, resin jewelry, and then from the resin jewelry started going into resin figures, making real small unarticulated pieces all the way up to magnetically articulated like 8-inch figures, and then from there going into like more traditional graphic design work with trading cards and posters and such.
Okay. Now, do you collect any other like knockoff figures, or do you just create your own?
I do collect, as much as I sometimes don't want to, because right now the world is full of really, really, really good like bootleg designer toy artists that put my stuff to absolute shame. And I begrudgingly support it because their stuff's really cool, but also makes me insanely jealous that someone can make something so awesome. So I do buy from time to time. I try not to, because it's a bit of a pride thing. But when there is something that's really cool, I'll pick it up, because I think it's good to support the artists and support that community, because a lot of those guys, especially right now with the way the world is, a lot of these guys, that's probably their only source of income.
Yeah. Like, I mean, I'm surprised at. I don't know how that works as long as with like Transformers and stuff. There's like so many different companies that make Transformers, and they just change the name and they get away with it. I don't know. I don't know how that works, but
a lot of I've actually gotten cease and desist letters. I've got cease and desist letters from Fun World. They're the company that makes the Scream mask, so they own the copyright to the Scream mask. And there was a bootleg figure that I was going to put out that was based off of the Ghostface figure. And once I started putting out some promotional material, they sent me a cease and desist email. I've also gotten cease and desist letters from the WWE, because I was going to put out a Ric Flair figure. So depending on the company, some of them don't care. Some of them are just like, it would be too much money to go off after someone so small that they just don't care. I put out bootleg figures of Michael Myers, Leatherface, Freddy, and have never had any issues with Miramax or New Line or whoever owns the rights to those. But there are some companies that are just any little infringement and they're on top of you.
Wow. So how do you? Well, actually, let's see some of the stuff that you got. I know that you brought some stuff that you wanted to show us as well.
It's I don't really have a whole lot of. I mean, there's a couple things that I've made that I'll show you, but for the most part, it's just stuff from my collection that, and some of it I've put on social media before, but some of the stuff that it's part of the inner circle of my collection, so to speak. I mean, I don't believe in having like a holy grail of collecting, because I think it's always good to keep chasing. Because once you do get that grail, then it's like, okay, now what? So I think it's always good to just kind of keep buying stuff and hunting things down that you like, that you can afford and makes you feel something. And so yeah, I'll show you some of the stuff that I have and kind of give you a little bit of a tour of this room that I'm in right now. It's kind of like my den / hobby room, and kind of talk about some of the stuff that's around. So let me switch things around and get the lights, and I'll show you guys what I got.
Okay.
So I know you were talking about Halloween costumes, and you were Crimson Ghost for Halloween this year. This was actually my Halloween costume. It was Rick from Splatterhouse, the original Splatterhouse, where his mask was essentially just a Friday the 13th mask, but they changed it just enough to kind of get around the censors. I know in the United States they had to color his mask like pink to avoid getting sued by Paramount and Friday the 13th. So,
okay.
And some of the stuff here. This is one of my favorite pieces, and it's not anything that's super rare or even expensive. It just looks really, really cool, and it kind of has like a museum quality to it. It's actually a brick from the Northern Michigan Asylum, and it's actually called a Markham Brick because of the brickworks there where it was made. And that's it just has a lot of special meaning to me, because I went up there with my girlfriend a few years back, and we spent some time up there, and they were at the time were giving these tours of the tunnels underneath of the asylum, and in the gift shop you can actually buy a brick, and it was only like $10, so it's not expensive at all. I mean, the cloche that it's in is more expensive, but it just has this quality about it. It's a conversation starter, and it has like this a bit of a darker history behind it, being a brick that was in a building that was part of the insane asylum.
That I'm sure is now haunted. Did anything come home with it?
Thankfully not, knock on wood. I mean, I always think about stuff like that, and out of all the people that would appreciate a haunting, I've never lived any place that's haunted, so okay. And I don't know how I would deal with it if anything did, though. So there's that.
I do. Supposedly my house is, and I did have a lot of things happen. Not recently. It's been a little while, but yeah, there's definitely some things. There's definitely an urban legend in town about the house that I live in, and but you know what? Stuff would happen. It was never really scary. Never really like a malevolent type thing. Maybe we'll talk about that on another show.
Yeah, that'd be interesting. I'd love to hear that. This is one that I've shown on social media before. This is kind of like, if you're a wrestling fan, this would be kind of like, at one time was kind of like the Holy Grail. This is an Undertaker autograph. For the longest time, this guy never signed anything. He was always in character, never signed autographs. And so to get his autograph was like the pinnacle of wrestling collectability. But over the years, as he's gotten closer and closer to retirement, or what he says is retirement, he's been popping up in more trading card sets. And so what once was like an unattainable grail is pretty readily available. But it's something I've chased since I was young, because wrestling and horror, I mean, they go together with that character. I mean, he's like this undead mortician character that, shoots lightning out of his fingers and, choke slams guys. So
like what year is that from? About?
That's a 2017 Topps Undisputed card.
Okay.
So it's a few years back. And it's graded, so it's in the slab. It's graded 9 mint. So there's only one grade higher than that. That's a gem mint 10, and that's probably like a gem mint 10 is like $1,000 card easy. The 9 is pretty reasonably priced.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's cool.
And then
we can talk about wrestling before we end the show.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of wrestling, I actually have and this kind of hits on wrestling here in Michigan. I have some actual unused tickets to Big Time Wrestling. We were talking a little bit about that earlier. This is from the Sheik's promotion down in Detroit, and to find these unused like this is really rare. The guy that I actually bought them from on eBay, after I did a little digging, turned out to be the Sheik's son. So I sent him some messages, just kind of talking to him about his dad and asking him questions, but he never got back with me. So
is that, I'm trying to think of what so his son, I'm trying to think of his name. He was also Captain Eddie George, right?
I think so, yeah. Unless he's got more than one son, which he might. So, and that's another thing about this Sheik. He was really protective about his private life. So there's not a lot known about what he was like outside the ring, other than he was always in character.
Yeah, I just recently watched a shoot interview with his nephew Sabu.
Oh yeah, Sabu.
Yeah, and he said they all called him the Sheik. They all called him Sheik, even his all of his family members, except that maybe his sister or somebody. But said the rest of them, he wanted to be called the Sheik.
Yeah, he was one of those guys where he was that character all the time, and that was like his commitment to the business. And I thought that was kind of cool, because you don't see that level of commitment anymore. You almost see people trying not to stay in character just to appear cool, and I think a lot of that happened during like the mid to late 90s with the whole Monday Night Wars, where people were coming out under their own name and exposing the business and stuff, and so for him to continue on with that was pretty incredible.
Yeah, it is. I mean, at this point, as far with technology and the internet and stuff, it'd be pretty tough to do.
Yeah, it would be interesting to see what a guy like him would be like in this day and age. I can imagine he would have a much tougher time now than he did back then.
So is your main focus kind of horror and wrestling then, or is it more of like a hodgepodge of other things too?
It's mainly horror, wrestling, video games, comics. So yeah, kind of a little bit of everything. So it's just a matter of just finding stuff that kind of speaks to me and tracking it down.
Yeah.
But
what's your favorite horror movie of all time?
Favorite horror movie of all time? Probably Halloween.
Okay. Yeah.
It goes in and out, but for the most part, general consensus, Halloween, definitely.
I would have that up there too.
Yeah. I mean, there's times where the mood will strike me and it'll be something different, like Night of the Living Dead or The Exorcist, but for the most part, Halloween's the number one be all.
Night of the Living Dead would be up there with me as well. Yeah. Kristen, what's your favorite horror movie?
Oh gosh, I don't even know. What was the one where it was Freddy versus Jason? Like, I thought they did such a good job on that movie, and you guys all probably think I'm super lame, but they killed it.
I didn't hate it.
It was so good.
It was a fun movie. I think they could have done a little bit more with Freddy, because if you go back and watch that movie, he doesn't actually kill one single person in that movie.
Oh wow, I didn't even. Man, now I'm gonna have to watch it again.
Yeah, I saw it at the theater. And I think I was, me and my buddy that I saw with, I think we were the only ones in there. I could be confusing that though with Jason X.
Oh yeah,
yeah. Yeah, I could see you being the only one in the theater for Jason X.
Right.
There might have been that one.
But no, this poster here, I've actually posted on social media. This is from Traverse City up at the State Theater. They had ran a movie marathon back in 2019, a Halloween horror-thon. And wow. It was one of those things where it's like a one-of-a-kind thing, and I bought it in a basement sale for $1. And it's really well printed, and it's on like Mylar. And so it's just one of those things where I really like when local places do something like this, where they have their own little spin on things, where you'd see like something like this, or like old drive-in posters and flyers, and kind of like stuff that wouldn't be available internationally or even in the next town over, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, that's awesome that they would even have that, you know, to commemorate.
Yeah, exactly. Because I mean, most places wouldn't put the effort in. They'd have like a 8x10 piece of paper printout saying, "Here's this and this and this, and here's the price. Come and check it out." So, yeah, it's pretty cool that they did that.
Now, what are your thoughts on Halloween 3? Because I defend it. I always defend it. But, you know, obviously a lot of people hate it for whatever reason. But
I think most people hate it because Michael Myers isn't in it. If they could get past that, it's actually a pretty decent and original horror movie. It's weird, and it's not going to appeal to everybody. But, I mean, isn't that kind of the point of when you have a movie is to try to make something new and different?
Yeah.
And, yeah, I think that if they get past the point that, yeah, Michael Myers isn't in it, then, yeah, it's a pretty weird, very original, and kind of creepy movie too. So it's well done, and yeah, I think it needs, and it's gotten a lot more credit over the years. I think for a long time, especially in the late 80s, early 90s, people kind of, you know, dumped all over it. But I think over the years, it's kind of clawed its way back up and kind of stands on its own.
That's true. I have seen a lot more merchandise as far as that movie goes lately.
Oh yeah, yeah. Those three masks have become just as iconic as the Myers mask almost.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, Tom Atkins. You never go wrong with Tom Atkins being the.
Yeah, Atkins. Yeah, Atkins is the man. I mean, everything he's been in, and that's what's cool about him is he's never shied away from being in horror movies. And there's certain actors that as they get older and they get more distinguished or they get a little bit more important, they shy away from horror movies. And it's like, no, man, stick to your guns, man. That's where people remember you the most from, and they love you. So
do you have anything right near you that you've created yourself? That's handy. No big deal.
Yeah. I've got this. I haven't showed this to anybody yet. This is pretty new. This is, and I'll probably be putting this out sometime in January. This is a new print. It's kind of a drive-in type print, and it's based off of the Lost Drive-In. That's the Lost River Drive-In from Halloween 2. Okay. They talk about seeing Michael Myers walking in the field behind the Lost River Drive-In, and I thought, what would the Lost River Drive-In play on a Halloween night in 1978? And I thought something like this would be kind of cool.
Oh, that is cool.
So kind of made it with like back in the day, they would use like a 2 or 3 color process where it would be screen printed and, you know, real kind of garish Halloween type imagery. And so I thought it would be kind of fun to put something like that together.
Yeah, that looks really cool.
It looks familiar.
Like how much?
I've seen it before. It's weird.
I doubt you. Well,
I clearly haven't seen it.
Maybe
before.
The style.
Yeah, it's a very familiar style. A lot of drive-in posters from the 50s and 60s had a very similar aesthetic.
Okay.
So just a lot of the same type of imagery.
Yeah, you nailed it. It's super good.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome.
Now, just for anybody that's going to visit your website or your store, like how much something like that go for on there?
That would be $15 shipped.
Oh, nice.
Oh, okay, that's not bad.
No, because
great.
Yeah, because I got to figure the time put into it, and then I have to get them printed, and the packaging is really important, because something like that, especially given the nature of the UPS or United Postal Service nowadays, they're not always super careful about stuff. So you have to have like really thick mailers and make sure that everything arrives in good condition. Because the last thing I want to have happen is somebody orders something, they put down their hard-earned money, and then they get it in the mail and it's damaged. I'm one of those people that it's like super critical about condition on things. And so if I get something in the mail that's dinged up or damaged in any way, it really bums me out. So I don't want to put anybody else in that situation.
Okay. Now I've seen some of your, I don't know if I think you've done more than one. But the one that sticks out of my head is your review of the Night of the Living Dead card set.
Yeah.
What would you say is your favorite trading card set of all time, if you have one?
Probably, this is an odd one, and there's no real frame of reference to it with anything horror related, but it's the 1989 Topps baseball set.
Okay.
And it's got a super iconic look to it. It's got kind of like this like mid to late 80s kind of flow about it. And I remember getting that set when I graduated from 6th grade. My mom got it to me because I got good grades. And so I remember that. And it kind of has this, it's not worth anything. I mean, it's not a rare set. They made a lot of them, and there's no like special cards in it. It just has like a kind of an endearing place in my heart, and just the look of the cards when I see them just kind of takes me back to a certain place and certain time.
Okay. Yeah, I totally get that. A lot of the same stuff that I would put in my top 10 stuff that I have, or whatever, top tier or what I have would be valuable really to anybody else, but just for whatever reason has a value to me. Kristen's probably the same way.
Well, it's the nostalgia of it. Takes you back, makes you remember things, and that's what it's about.
Yeah, and I think that's what happens as you get older as a collector. You start to gravitate towards things that make you feel something, not so much, oh, if I buy this now, I can turn around and sell it in 6 months and it'll be worth more money, or this is super rare and no one else has it. It's more or less, I like to have this because it makes me feel something. And I think that's really important.
For sure.
But this is a trading card that I made. Go ahead. I'm going to say this is a trading card I made here. This is Nathan Basil from Behind the Mask of the Rise of Leslie Vernon. This is one of the last things that I made before COVID hit, that I actually was able to meet him and have him sign it in person. So, yeah, that was back in February at Astronomicon.
Okay. I'm slacking because that's one of the movies that I had on my list, and I still have not got around to seeing it yet. I've heard a lot of good things.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's a complete deconstruction of the slasher movie about how when there's certain tropes in slasher movies where someone slips, or when the killer who's just walking after someone can catch up to them, he shows you how all those things come to be and how he prepares the house so that way everything's kind of booby trapped and he's got an advantage over them. It's really funny. It's actually really funny, and it's just really well made. And Nathan Basil does such a good job, and he's such a charming actor in that portrayal.
Okay, yeah, I'll definitely have to check it out. Like I said, that's been on my list. Now we've touched on pro wrestling a little bit, but one thing that I noticed that when I was looking at the merchandise that you have, the pro wrestling related, it's a lot of like my favorite guys. Bruiser Brody, Abdullah the Butcher, and then local guys too, like the Sheik and Bobo Brazil. Now, how do you pick who you decide to make stuff of, as far as that goes, or is it, or are those just kind of like your favorite guys too? Oh, it's Stan Hansen as well.
Yeah, a lot of it has to do with the type of wrestling that I like, and I like hard hitting stuff that's real. I mean, I like the flippy stuff too. I love the Young Bucks. I love Kenny Omega. I love the athleticism, and they do things that no one else can do. But I like guys also that look like they could beat the hell out of you, and then when they're in the ring, they actually do. And so, guys like Bruiser Brody, that same thing with the Sheik. I mean, guys were really protective of their image and protective of the business, and made it a point to stay in character and to protect protect the.
Yeah.
Did he freeze?
You still there? Well, Jack, can you hear us?
Yeah, I'm still here. Yeah, I got you. Yeah,
Okay.
there was a glitch in the Matrix.
Okay, no problem. So yeah, I agree with you. Is there any guy, like a modern day guy, that you would put in that category? I know that things are different, like way different. They don't really get a whole lot of control over what they do as much as they probably did back in the day. But is there any guy that kind of fits that bill right now that's kind of like the hard hitting, like a strong style type guy?
Yeah, there's actually two of them that I really, really like. And you might be familiar with one of them. His name's Walter. He's in NXT UK. Just a really big Austrian dude that just beats the hell out of people. I mean, the dude is stiff as hell.
Yeah, I haven't seen a ton of his stuff, but what I have seen, I really liked. And same thing about him.
Yeah, the dude, his chops are amazing and so loud and so hard hitting. After a match with him, the dude's chests are just like black and blue. The dude keeps it real, and he's legit. Tomohiro Ishii, who's in New Japan, they call him the Stone Pitbull. That dude's a wrecking ball too, and he's squat thick. He has no neck. Hell out of guys. Him and John Moxley had a really, really hard hitting match last year that was just amazing.
Can you say his name again? Because I think there was a little audio glitch there. The second guy?
Tomohiro Ishii.
Okay. I mean, I do try to keep up with Japanese stuff still, but I don't know if I've ever seen him, but I will definitely check that out. We're running low on time. Kristen, do you have any questions that you want to get in before we got to go?
I think I'm good. Is there anything that he, wanted to share with us during this, or that you didn't get a chance to share?
No, I just, if anybody's looking for any type of commission work that's, you need a poster designed, a Blu-ray case, a poster for a band gig, any type of graphic design stuff, hit me up. I'm open to anything. I like working with other people because when you do your own stuff for a while, it kind of gets monotonous. And so once you open up that door and start helping other people kind of get their image out into the world, it's kind of a super fulfilling thing. And so right now I've been working with some guys over at Strange Films. You should check them out, Strange Film Studios. Very cool guys, very accomplished independent filmmakers. A lot of times nowadays when you see independent films, you can tell it's an independent film because it looks like garbage. But with these guys, it's legit. I mean, they're super talented. And I just anything that piques my interest, I'll try to put it out in the world in a creative way. And I think we should all strive to do that in our own little way and try not to be destructive, especially in the world we live in nowadays, because there's so much awful stuff happening that's well beyond our control. The things that are in our control, we should try to make it a little bit better for everybody and help each other out and have fun doing it, and just be open to things and listen to what other people have to say and help people bring out what they have in their head out into the world, and just get along, everybody.
I know. Everybody love everybody. ELE.
I do have one.
Yeah, exactly.
I do have one real quick question that I meant to get to. I won't get into what it is, but you and I have both have a connection with the local wrestling promotion, IWE, or at least you did.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Did they ever? Have you ever made anything for them? Any merchandise or anything, or did they ever?
Oh yeah, yeah. I've yeah. That's one thing that I wanted to touch upon. Thanks for bringing that up. But yeah, for about a 2-year span, I was making their wrestling posters. So every month they'd run a show, and I would put out their poster for every show. And there's a lot of them on my website if you want to check them out. And that was really, really fun because it was trying to incorporate as many of the wrestlers as I could onto a poster in a centralized theme, you know, because there would be like the December show, which would be a Christmas theme, and the October show would be a Halloween theme. And then you'd have like your summer shows, which would have beach or, you know, some sort of summer theme. And so that was really, really fun. And I've worked with a lot of the guys designing their T-shirts, a lot of guys working on trading cards. So for a while there, it was going really well, and then it just things just started to slack off a little bit, and you know, I think once this whole COVID thing is over with, we'll probably go back into business and work some more. But yeah. Check out my website, jax-attic.com. Check out the graphic design section. There's all kinds of different posters in there from IWs and such. Yeah, hit me up if you need anything.
Will do for sure.
And just a quick plug for them. Their Jeff Klaus tribute show that they did in the fall is going to be debuting on their Facebook page and maybe their website. I don't know. On Christmas Day, I believe. So just wanted to get that in there real quick. Thank you, Jack, for being here. We really appreciate it. Again, this always happens. We barely scratched the surface. So this might just be part 1 of the Jack Magnus interview.
Yeah, yeah, that would be awesome. And like any good horror movie, there has to be a sequel. So, you know, and as per the rules, per any horror movie sequel, the body count has to be up. So, yeah, so we'll have to work together and take somebody out. So,
all right, sounds fantastic.
Yes, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. And anybody watching, definitely check out jaxattic.com.
You guys have, yeah.
And we'll talk to you soon, Jack. And Kristen.
Thank you so much. You guys have a good holiday.
You too. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
And
Kristen, thanks again for being here. As always, everybody else, just keep checking the Collection Reflection Facebook page for future updates. And hopefully, like he was saying, hopefully the COVID stuff gets over here soon, or at least gets somewhat back to normal so we can be back in the studio, get back on a regular schedule and all that good stuff. Kristen, you got anything to plug real quick? What's going on? I just want to ask you about the, who's that?
This is one of my bald cats, Freddy. And it sounds like your dog can censor through the video.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know. She's always barking at whatever. Okay. What's going on with the auditorium real quick?
We're open Thursdays and Fridays, 3:30 to 8, Saturdays 12 to 5, Monday through Wednesdays by appointment. I'm still out there picking. I'm still out there bringing new stuff in. So keep checking in.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, anybody in the area, definitely check out the auditorium as well. And like I said, just keep checking for updates. And thank you for tuning in and checking out the Collection Reflection. And we will see everybody the next time.
And have a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, everyone. Happy holidays.
Yep. Ditto.
All right. Bye, everyone.